What's up, YouTube? It's Carolina Calvin coming back to you with another video. And I got my boy Mitch here, I got MG here, and we're going to kind of do an update to our rankings with the release of Thor Ragnarok, which came out into last year, and of course the recent release of Black Panther, which has been doing great, by the way. We decided to update our rankings. I'm going to do my entire, pretty much, it's 18 movies up to this point with the addition of Black Panther and Thor. I'm going to do my rankings from 18 to 1. These guys can do 10 to 1. It just depends on what changed. Also, I'm going to get their thoughts on Black Panther, what they thought about the movie. But you already know what I thought. Let's get into I'm going to do my rankings first, starting with 18. I did a video on this before, so some of them didn't change for the most part. But at 18, starting with The Incredible Hulk, trash. The movie doesn't have to exist. 17, Thor Dark World. It's a huge misstep. I'm not going to explain it. Trash. 16, Thor 1. Boring. I think there's some good things about the movie, but it's boring. That's probably the biggest thing coming out of that movie. And some of these movies I've seen recently. 15, Ant-Man. Y'all already know how I feel about this trash. Paul Rudd, he's garbage. But the reason I have it, if you could say, as high as it is, the action's good. The shrinking stuff. He was fighting. Who was he fighting again?
Yellow Jacket.
Yeah. The fights were really good. They were unique. It was something you haven't seen before. Still really haven't seen anything like that. So I'll give it credit there, but for the most part, I don't like Paul Rudd. You don't like the main character, the movie's not going to be high up on you. At 14, I got Iron Man 2. 14 and 13, you can interchange those. Same with 17 and 16, you can interchange those. Iron Man 2, step down from Iron Man 1. Still a fun movie to watch, just because Robert Downey is really good, but still a step down from the first movie. Iron Man 3, I would probably interchange these just because Iron Man 3, Mandarin was probably one of the worst villains in the entire MCU. Just because of how much they changed from comics to the cinematic universe. They didn't even try. The dude's an actor. The movie's garbage. At 12, Captain America, the First Avenger. And this movie, the movie's okay. The movie's okay. Obviously, I was really thinking about moving it up over the next movie I'm going to name. But it's still a solid movie. I think it gets overlooked just because Winter Soldier and Civil War are really good. So a lot of people forget about the first Captain America movie. At number 11, Avengers Age of Ultron. This movie had the potential to be in the best one, just because of Ultron is really, he's a really good villain in the comics, but I think they botched it. And then they tried to do so many things in the movie, and the action's great. Seeing all the characters interact with each other, that's great. We knew that was going to be good just based on seeing the first Avengers. But I think there was a bunch of things they missed in this one. At 10, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It got to a point where it's more comedy over anything else. And I guess that's what they're going for. But I think, looking at Gamora and Drax, I really didn't like. I like the casting, but I don't like the way the characters are written and portrayed in these movies. I'm not the biggest fan of Guardians of the Galaxy, so this was one of the ones that actually changed. So we're getting into the top 10. So at 10, that's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. At 9, Spider-Man Homecoming. You probably could interchange 9 and 10. Spider-Man Homecoming is complete, to me, a destruction of the Spider-Man character. And a lot of people are like, what the hell are you talking about? Well, he just didn't, not only with him, I thought Tom Holland did a good job as Spider-Man. I'm just talking about his whole story. And then the casting in terms of the other characters. Terrible casting. But Vulture, played by Michael Keaton. He was great. Tom Holland, Spider-Man, of course, Robert Downey as Iron Man. Those were great. It was just some, the minor characters who definitely can make or break a movie. That's what hurt it for me. And number 8, this is probably one of the biggest changes. The first Guardians of the Galaxy. I moved this one down quite a few spots. It was actually in the top 5 the last time I did the video. But that one's moving out of it. Weak villain. Weak villain. They didn't even try. Now, probably one of the best soundtracks and visuals. That was the first time us really seeing something like that in the cinematic universe. But after looking at it, I like the movies more. I got ahead of it. At 7, Thor Ragnarok. They had the 2 bad movies. They finally hit it out the park with this one. Great movie. At number 6, Doctor Strange. Often overlooked movie. I felt as though it was one of the better origin movies for just showcasing who Doctor Strange is, and the acting job was great. He went from being, and you saw growth in the character in the movie. If you haven't seen this on Netflix, you can easily watch it. But you saw him being arrogant to being kind of like humble, willing to save the world, all that. So you saw growth in the movie for one character. And it's one of those movies that the good standalone movies are the ones that don't feel connected to the rest of the universe. Number 5, Iron Man 1. This is the start of everything. The betrayal of Robert Downey. No one knew who he was before that. And I knew he played Sherlock Holmes before that. But this was his really breakout role to him becoming a big time star. And he did an amazing job. Really set up the universe and turned a C-list character into an A-list character in overnight. At number 4, Black Panther. If you see my review of it, high praise. Obviously, I didn't list it in that particular movie just because I didn't ever think about it until really I mentioned it. But this movie is great. Few issues, but for the most part, from villain to the casting of everyone, the job that all the characters did. There's no bad casting. There's no bad acting job in this entire movie. So that's at number 4. That was the movie that moved into my top 5. And number 3, Captain America Civil War. With everything that's going on, they still found a way to make a pretty good story. Obviously not the same as the comics, but it was still good for what they gave us. Number 2, the Avengers. The interactions with the characters, great. It's the first time us really seeing Loki. We saw him in the first Thor movie, but this is when we saw him at his best. Still, to me, the best villain in the entire MCU. And the number 1, you already know what this one is. This one hasn't moved. Captain America: Winter Soldier. I feel this is the movie that has no flaws. At least in comparison to all the other movies, it really has no flaws. And it's still my favorite MCU movie. So those are my top 18. Those are my listed 18 movies in order from my least favorite to favorite. Whoever wants to go.
All right. I guess I'll go next.
Go ahead.
Interesting list, Calvin. I listed all my 18, so I might as well list them off. I'll do 18 to 10 very quickly. But at number 18, I have The Incredible Hulk. Like you said, it's the only film that I feel like in the MCU actually doesn't have to exist. Therefore, it's last by default. At number 17, I have Thor 2 Dark World. Same as you. Just this is the movie that actually feels to me like it could be a DC movie, like one of the very bad DC movies. It's very dark. It just doesn't fit Thor very well. Number 16, I have Iron Man 2. I recently just watched this actually last night. I just feel like there's too many stories, too many plot points in this movie. It's all jumbled together, and there's actually no cohesive story in it, and it's just kind of like a commercial for the Avengers. Number 15, I have Age of Ultron, actually. I feel like, again, like Iron Man 2, honestly, this movie doesn't have a lot in terms of a story. It's just a lot of action scenes put together. And yeah, the action's amazing, but I need something a little bit more in terms of a story. And I just felt like Age of Ultron really underdelivered on that. At number 14, I have Thor. I think this movie is a little bit overlooked. I like what they do with the Thor character. I think that this is something where a movie that, at least in the MCU, they take some chances with it. So I appreciate it for that. At number 13, I have Iron Man 3. I think this movie is pretty good overall. You brought up the Mandarin is kind of something, a weak point of the movie, but I felt like he isn't the actual main villain in the movie, so I don't mind it so much. I think that the movie is good in the fact that this is the movie right after the Avengers, so it kind of looks at Iron Man and what happened in the Avengers, and you kind of get that side of him, so I like that part of it. At number 12, I have Guardians 2. This movie underdelivered. I thought it could have had the potential to be the best movie in the entire MCU before it came out, based on the trailers. It had a lot of hype, and I felt like it was just too many jokes and just, I don't know, it just didn't deliver the way that I thought it would, and it underwhelmed me. The villain was kind of cheesy to me. It never matched what the first one gave me in terms of the excitement and the overall flair of the first one. And then you have number 11, Ant-Man. I know you guys hate this movie, but I thought they did something special with it in terms of just its comedy approach. I thought this was the first movie that just embraced the full-on comedy aspect of the MCU. And in that way, I felt like it did deliver. It also had some very unique action set pieces in it, and I actually liked the main character. So I put Ant-Man at number 11. Then my top 10, starting off with Cap, the First Avenger. This movie I feel is probably the most underrated, especially the first hour of this movie is amazing. When they build up the Captain America character, I think if you actually go back and watch this movie, you see how many different movies are based off this one movie, like Civil War, you have the Avengers, obviously Winter Soldiers. There's just so many different plot lines from this one movie that's taken, and it's a really big deal in terms of the MCU. At number 9, I have Spider-Man Homecoming. We've discussed this one in length. I just think that this movie is just missing the heart of what Spider-Man is, and it's missing, he didn't have any consequences in the actual actions of this movie. So I missed that from the Spider-Man character, but Tom Holland was great and obviously a great villain. Then at number 8, you have Doctor Strange. I think they did some amazing things in terms of the effects. The visuals were incredible and different from all MCU movies. It was a different take, and kind of it placed the MCU in space, and it did some really creative things with the MCU. So I liked Doctor Strange for that. And then at number 7, you have Thor Ragnarok. This was a really fun, actually better movie than I even expected. I've heard about all the hype going in, but myself not being a huge Thor fan, I was really shocked on how good this movie was. It was funny. It took Thor into a totally different facet and totally delivered on what we wanted from Thor from day one. And if they would have had 3 movies like this for Thor, then Thor might have been the best character in the MCU. And they totally got back any fan that didn't like Thor before now definitely likes Thor. So at number 7, I have Thor Ragnarok. At number 6, I have Guardians of the Galaxy. This movie coming out, and I do think this is the best soundtrack still to this day. Just such a vibrant, colorful, enjoyable movie from start to finish. Chris Pratt is incredible in this movie. The whole characters, just everything about it is just fun, and you enjoy it from start to finish. And then number 5, I do have Black Panther. Black Panther arguably has the best villain. I thought Michael B. Jordan was awesome in this movie. And then you throw onto the fact of Black Panther himself being so good, such a great performance there. And they kind of built an entire world of Black Panther and Wakanda, and I thought everything about it was just special, and it really is going to have a cultural impact that I think it belongs near the top of this list more because of that, even more so than just how good the movie is itself. At number 4, you have Civil War. Civil War, I actually felt like I didn't like it as much coming off of it when I watched it the first time. But the more I watch it and then the more I think about it, I like it more because of what it did with the Iron Man and Captain America characters and how good it was at creating that tension and creating that rivalry within the Avengers. And this movie more than any has a rare emotion to it and just like inner struggle between the two characters that I really appreciate. And number three, it's Iron Man. I just watched this a couple days ago. It's still amazing, still holds up to this day. And this is the movie that starts off like it just starts off and it takes off from the very start. There is no movie in the MCU to me that starts off and plays from start to finish better than this movie. It's so fun from the very start of it, and there's no performance better than Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man, the first Iron Man. He is incredible in this movie, and the dialogue in this movie is probably also the best of any movie. Then you have at number two, The Avengers. This is just the big ensemble movie, and it's just so much fun. I remember watching it the first time, and every single time I watch it, it's just that you get that feeling back of seeing these characters together for the first time. And I think if a lot of people actually undersell the story and some of the aspects, and especially the villain in this film. So this was a really good one. And then at number one, again, like Calvin said, Captain America: Winter Soldier. This is the movie to me that really captures the MCU best in terms of the action, in terms of the story, in terms of the characterization. It has a great villain in it. I really like the different approach they take with the whole like crime sort of espionage like look at Captain America. It introduces a couple of characters as well. And overall, this is the movie that made me kind of elevate my thought of a character most in terms of I went from being a Captain America fan to him arguably being my favorite character in the entire MCU because of this movie. So that's my list overall.
Well, for me, I got a different number 18 than everybody else. Iron Man 3 is my number 18. I absolutely hate that movie. That is the single movie on this list that I will never watch again.
Jeez, that's harsh,
willingly
man.
or unwillingly. I hated that movie.
I knew he was going to put that one up.
From start,
Why
from
do you
start
hate
to
it so
finish,
much?
I hate everything about that movie. Mandarin, you take Iron Man's main villain. I ain't like Iron Man got a slew of villains that, Mandarin is his villain. Iron Man doesn't really have villains in the comics that people care about. And then you take his number one villain and make him an actor. And completely change his powers. He didn't have magic rings. Like, how do you do Mandarin? Like, I don't get it. Like, it was god awful. Gwyneth Paltrow, I hated what she did in the movie. I mean, the only good thing about the movie were the suits at the end. Literally the only good thing. And even that, I kind of felt like it was the suits weren't really that impressive. Like, it wasn't like all the, he had a couple different looking suits, obviously, but it's not like, he brought out the whole library like we used to see in the cartoon. I absolutely hate that movie with every fiber of my Marvel fan being. Number 18, Incredible Hulk.
17.
17, my bad. 17, Incredible Hulk. Yeah, I mean, like they mentioned, man, it's not really part of the quote-unquote MCU. I mean, technically it's part of it, but they don't acknowledge it at all. I thought there were some funny moments in there when he was the Hulk, but just overall, it just wasn't a good movie. It wasn't well executed. I understand what they were going for, but it wasn't executed well at all. Number 16, Ant-Man. I absolutely hate that movie. I mean, some of the fight scenes were cool, but I hate Paul Rudd. They literally changed the entire origin of Ant-Man with the Pym particles and Hank Pym. The first movie could have really used Evangeline Lilly as the Wasp. I'll say that. They could have really used her because Paul Rudd just ain't cutting it for me. He's not funny to me. He's not a good actor to me. I don't find anything entertaining about him. Um, Number 15, I got Thor 1. I absolutely hated Thor 1. Um, they didn't do Thor any justice, and they didn't do him any type of justice whatsoever as a character. Um, in terms of how powerful he is, and this has been a thing with Thor ongoing throughout all the Marvel movies, with the exception of Ragnarok to a degree. They've drastically powered down Thor to the point where he's having legitimate battles with Iron Man. Just not cutting it. Um, Number 14, I got Thor 2 Dark World. Also didn't like this movie. I understood what they were going for, but like Mitchell said, man, it was kind of like, it was almost like a bad DC movie. Um, the dark and gritty look, and it doesn't fit Thor. Even more so now after seeing Ragnarok, they were doing it all wrong from the beginning, and after coming off the first movie that wasn't necessarily well received by a lot of people, to go back to the same formula and make it worse for the and for the second movie is just not good. The only reason why I got it higher is because I feel like the villain, I feel like Malachi was a good villain. He just executed wrong, and so I got that one higher than Thor 1. Number 13, Iron Man 2. Is there really anything memorable about Iron Man 2? And I think this is a big issue. Like Iron Man 1, you had the big
Scarlett
explosions.
Johansson, that's it.
Yeah, pretty much. Iron Man 1, you had the big explosion in the desert. Iron Man 3, you had all the suits at the end. But is there really anything like a memorable moment from Iron Man 2? Maybe them fighting in the forest. Maybe. I just thought it was a better overall movie than Iron Man 3, but um, it ugh, the villain was definitely better. Mickey Rourke as Whiplash was infinitely better than fucking Mandarin. But it still just wasn't a great movie. Number 12, Avengers: Age of Ultron. This was a huge missed opportunity, especially coming off of the first Avengers movie. Um, they didn't do Ultron justice as a villain. Um, you did have some cool moments in the movie, but the action was a little bit lackluster in comparison to the first Avengers. Outside of the scene where they were all standing together in a circle, and they started doing the typical Avengers thing where they go around with the camera and get everybody in the shot. Um, this was the introduction of miracles into the MCU. Didn't really like that. They killed off Quicksilver, which, remember, this came out after X-Men. What was it, Days of Future Past? And
Mm-hmm.
after the performance that he had, for them to go in there and put out a performance by Quicksilver like that and then kill him off, it's like, come on. Especially for such a important character in terms of his lineage, being Magneto's son. So, got that there. Number 11, Spider-Man: Homecoming. They butchered him badly. I like Tom Holland. I like Michael Keaton. This is arguably one of the worst supporting cast out of any MCU movie.
Yep.
I mean, Ned Leeds, Flash Thompson. Come on.
You didn't like Flash Thompson? I'm
No,
confused.
that's not Flash Thompson.
He was a nerd. Oh my god.
Yeah, Flash Thompson's a big jock. That is not Flash
Wait,
Thompson.
you didn't like DJ Flash?
Oh, hell no, it was horrible. Horrible. I can't get with it, Now, I gave him credit for not going the whole Iron Man being Spider-Man's dad the entire movie, which is what it looked like in the trailer. Visually, really good movie. I just think writing and casting were big issues for that movie. Writing in terms of Spider-Man's origin, in his essence as Spider-Man, arguably the most popular Marvel character of all time. There was some good in the movie though, like I said. So I mean, that's why it's not lower on my list. Number 10, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. If we're gonna be honest about this, Groot saved that entire movie. Groot saved that movie because Drax was dialed back in the movie. Star-Lord, he was dealing with this weird dad ego, which was not great. Gamora dialed back a little bit in this movie outside of the stuff with Nebula. It really, the only one, I mean, Rocket Raccoon kind of dialed back as well. I think Groot and Yondu saved this movie because if you take Yondu's performance out of the movie and you take away the the endearing factor that Groot brings to the screen. I mean, what really is Guardians Volume 2? It's not a great overall movie. The villain was weak in terms of what they did with him. I mean, he's a living planet, and literally all they did with him was have him show Peter how to throw an energy football and try to blow up a planet. Like, that's what we get out of a living planet. You know, the soundtrack was still good. Not as good as the first one. Visually, still good. But I think they missed a huge opportunity with this movie as well. Kind of like Age of Ultron, where you come off the success of the first movie that was so great, and you fall into you decline in the second movie. So got them there. Number 9, Captain America: First Avenger. I think this movie is very slept on by a lot of people. I think this movie is very underrated by a lot of people. I think Red Skull as a villain in this movie was good. I think the writing was good. The action was good. I liked the way they did the origin. I thought the action was good. You know, I thought this was a really solid movie, really solid. So, and this movie really kind of opened up the doors for a lot of things that Marvel started to do afterwards. Kind of the grittier looking movies, because Iron Man was always so bright and vibrant. And then this movie opened up the doors and kind of helped lead them to a path, a different direction in terms of what they can possibly do in movies. Number 8, Guardians of the Galaxy. This is a really good movie. The one real knock on this movie is the villain, Ronan. Not a great villain. The soundtrack was good. The action was good. Visually, it was good. The storytelling and writing was good. This is arguably one of Marvel's top 2 or 3 written movies in terms of the writing. It's definitely up there in that pantheon. I just thought having such a weak villain for the first movie brought it down a lot, and this has been a case with a lot of Marvel movies, weak villains. Number 7, I got Iron Man 1. Now, this is one that has gradually fallen down my list over time. He kicked off the MCU. So I don't believe he'll ever fall out my top 10, barring some incredible movies coming out. But I think what you get with Iron Man 1 is good, but overall, villain's still weak. The villain wasn't bad, so to speak, but it was weak. It was a weak villain, which has been the case with every Iron Man movie at this point. It's like I was telling Mitchell earlier, it's the blueprint. It laid a blueprint, but a lot of these movies afterwards came and took that blueprint and improved upon it. So, it's kind of like Dr. J laid a blueprint for something, and here came Michael Jordan and took that blueprint and took it to another level. So, Iron Man sits at 7 for me. Number 6, Doctor Strange. I think this movie's underrated by a lot of people when you talk about what they did visually, the story they told, and it took Marvel in a different direction, and it opened up the doors for the magic, the magic aspect of Marvel. The movie was visually stunning. Benedict Cumberbatch, great actor, did a great job. Baron Mordo, great job. Dormammu left some things to be desired in terms of what they did with him, but they didn't kill him off, which was important because he can always come back in future movies. Number 5, I got Captain America: Winter Soldier at 5. This, you could argue, is Marvel's best written movie, the best written movie that they have done. It is absolutely great writing. I think that the reason why I don't have it in the other ones is that I don't the excitement level isn't the same, right? Like when the other movies I have come on the screen, like the excitement level automatically jumps through the roof. And with Winter Soldier, it's like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and watch a great movie, but I'm not necessarily excited. And I think a part of that is the tone of the movie, which I'm not gonna hold against Marvel or the movie itself. It's just not as exciting to watch as the other movies I have above it. Number four, I got Thor Ragnarok. I loved Thor Ragnarok from start to finish. I thought visually it was great. This is the first Thor movie they got right. Character progression. The Hulk had a great performance. I'm not saying Mark Ruffalo. The Hulk had a great performance. Um, Valkyrie had a great performance. Low key, obviously. Kate Blanchett is hella. She is one of the three best villains that we've seen in the MCU so far, along with Loki and in my opinion, Killmonger. Eric Killmonger. So to have two of those in one movie with Hela and Loki, it's strong acting. I thought Thor
Wait,
Ragnarok
you
was.
you missed Mandarin there.
No, he might be he's got to be the worst. He's got to be the Mandarin. Absolutely has to be the worst. I can't think of a worse villain than Mandarin.
Yeah,
I
you're
just
you're probably right.
that and that's Iron Man's movie problems, man.
Other than Bane in
Oh, I hated Bane and I hated Bane
in
in that.
in Batman and Robin.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the recent Bane. I
No,
hated him too.
Batman and Robin. That Bane.
Oh, no, I hated the Bane from the last Batman movie.
That Bane from Batman, that motherfucker was a Sasquatch.
Yeah,
A big green
like,
Sasquatch. Bane.
that's cool. That's what I want Bane to be. I don't want Bane
He
to
gotta
be
be smart. He gotta be
5'7"
smarter
and,
than that.
That's a whole different conversation. Can I bring this up before you talk about Black Panther?
Go
All
for
right,
it.
so I looked up on Twitter. All right, so this pops up on my Twitter. Black Panther has been voted Rotten Tomatoes greatest movie of all time.
Oh, that's taking too far right there. See.
Uh,
Yeah.
Okay,
Now, somebody if it
it's
said greatest superhero movie, I don't agree with it, but I can understand.
yeah, like at
It's
least
greatest
if it's in that like greatest movie of all time. All right, so Black Panther, it has 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, which films have 99 and 100% obviously. But they said that because of the number of reviews, it has 307 reviews compared to like Wizard of Oz has like 110. And then I don't know if they're counting in, I guess they don't count in money made because Wizard of Oz made a lot of money at its time. So I don't like really understand
Oh, it's the here and now thing. I have a
how
lot
it
to do
works,
with it.
but nonetheless, I don't think Black Panther should be in that conversation as I have it at fifth. I think Calvin has it at what, fifth too?
Fourth.
Fourth, and where does MG have it? We'll see.
3.
All right.
So yeah, it's. I think it's a lot of the. I mean, I can't remember a movie outside of Avengers and Civil War where the reception to the movie has been this positive, and a lot of it has to do with the social media age too, where when Iron Man came out, social media existed, but it wasn't like it is today, or when I mean, imagine social media, with the first Avengers movie, even a few years later now, how crazy it would have been. So I think that has a lot to do with it, and the hype. I mean, most people who go see the movie like the movie. They think most people. I haven't even seen many people who said the movie was decent. Like most people I've seen or talked to have said the movie was great, and so I think Black Panther to me is the best debut character movie. Obviously the two I have, higher or team up movies um, one of the last in a trilogy. But as a debut film, I think it had the advantage of not having to go through an entire origin story, which is very
MG,
difficult to pull off for any character. So,
MG, what makes it better than Iron Man to you? Because it's not better than Iron Man to me.
way better villain. in the discussion.
But
The villain is night and day. Night and day.
Yeah, the villain, but like everything else, I think Iron Man is better.
The entire cast was better for Black Panther.
I don't know about that.
As an entire whole.
Yeah.
There's Robert Downey Jr. Great. But what other characters in the Iron Man movies are necessarily great that belong to the Iron Man movies? Because you can't really count guys like Sam Jackson.
I think Pepper Potts in that movie is really good.
Yeah, she gets annoying.
I think he makes like every single person he interacts with in that movie. I just saw this movie 2 days ago again. Every single person he interacts with in that movie, he elevates.
That's the problem. Black Panther, you didn't have to elevate the other characters. They brought their own acting.
This is the movie that started it off. Without the success of this movie, the MCU does not exist.
Yeah, true, but that's like saying if Jerry West didn't play basketball, you still, it's like saying Jerry West just because he's a logo, he's better than somebody.
Don't you think though that like Black Panther did Black Panther really do a lot different with what Iron Man set the stage for? Like, I think Black Panther's an awesome movie. I have it at number 5.
It was, and they improved.
But I don't think they really changed the like whole landscape of the way that they do their movies and like.
Yeah, but Impact is different from what's a better movie on a technical level. Impact is completely different because
but I'm talking about actually the technical level of the movie. I'm talking about the technical level
was better than Iron Man.
How though? Because Iron Man actually
cast, better writing,
in terms of like the way that they actually write their movies. I felt like Iron Man was
setting
a better
the stage
written
doesn't
movie.
mean it's technically better.
No, but what I'm trying to say is that Black Panther didn't change the way that they do their movies.
Yeah, but that's because Iron Man just happened to come first.
But basically, what Black Panther is the same movie.
Doesn't make it better though.
Black Panther is the same sort of
movie, but better villain and better all-around cast. Just because it's a blueprint doesn't make it better.
The visuals for Black Panther, although like, I think they actually had some missteps in terms of the CGI in the movie. I actually thought that
I would say would be in the final fight with him and Killmonger. There's a couple of missteps there. But overall, and on top of that, Black Panther didn't need an origin story. Iron Man, you had to go through the whole origin.
But I like that part of the movie.
Black Panther, you could just jump right into it.
I don't know. I like
right into it.
But Black Panther to me, did it not start slow for you?
Mm-mm.
Really? Okay.
No.
I feel like it did.
I like because the thing about it is like the whole tribal thing. They're like technologically advanced, probably the most advanced nation, but you can see they're still tied to those traditions that almost seem to us like savages.
To me, like Iron Man just is more fun from start to finish, while Black Panther, I feel like they go through a lot of kind of parts where not necessarily where I zone out or anything, but like I'm just like, okay, can we move on back to the like stuff that's good? Like it has a little bit more of that than Iron Man does to me.
But I think with Iron Man, I think that's what Iron Man is kind of rested. That's what they've depended on, it being fun, all the suits and all the explosions. But a lot of times their writing has suffered for that. And
not in the first movie.
I think one thing with Black Panther that's different than Iron Man, they had to build a world around it. It's like Iron Man, you're just building the Iron Man character.
No, but you're building the MCU though. But you're building the MCU.
Nah, you're not
really
building the MCU because Iron Man became popular, but just from a character standpoint, you can still have Captain America without Iron Man. It might not be as popular, but you can still build a movie around Captain America. You see what I'm saying? Like Iron Man was just the beginning of the MCU, but that's just talking about importance. That's not necessarily talking about the actual character. And the importance of Iron Man is only important because it became as popular as it was. Because had Iron Man not became as popular as it was, we'd be having this conversation about a different movie.
I think this is just time bias.
Mm-mm.
No, it's not just time bias, but I mean that's part of what happens in movies, though. That's what happens in everything.
I don't know.
Yeah, you can have a blueprint, but things improve and things come along that are just better.
But my point is, I don't think it did.
How was it? Okay, was there a better villain in Black Panther? That's
Yes.
all three Iron Man movies have suffered from.
But there's
horrible
better
villains.
writing in Iron Man.
I disagree.
So we'll agree to disagree then.
I disagree because the writing in Iron Man only was to set up one character. The writing in Black Panther sets up so many different characters.
And I think you see like a pure transition for that main character from start to finish. Like if you think about Iron Man, how expertly done they executed that transition from the first scene in the movie is like Robert Downey Jr. being a giant dick. And then at the end of the movie, he's thinking about how he can save the world.
Wait, hold on. Black Panther went from holding true to his Wakanda's traditions of being an isolated nation to wanting to share with the other
Yeah, and I
nations.
thought that they did a really good job of that. But then that's just also replicating what
And
Iron Man
on
did.
top of that, Iron Man doesn't really pull on the emotional
The
strings
thing,
of the
oh no, Black Panther was never a douchebag though. He was never a douchebag.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't a
He just
douchebag,
stuck
but
to
like
tradition.
I felt like beat by beat they didn't do anything above and beyond what Iron Man already set for them.
I think the writing was drastically better.
I
mean,
don't think
put it this way: Iron Man, they made you care about one guy, right? Just Iron Man. You talk about Black Panther, you literally come out of that movie saying, "Wow, I don't really hate Killmonger."
Well, see, like they changed War Machine, no one ever said shit. Like when they changed,
Yeah, Don Cheadle. I mean, Terrence Howard's trash.
when they changed Terrence Howard to Don Cheadle, no one said nothing. And he's a pretty important character in terms of
still
Iron
cared
Man.
about the character though.
I'm saying, well, like, I think if they go back and change any of these Black Panther characters, people be pissed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the characters were good.
I don't
All
know.
of them were good. You know, I think just overall it was a better movie. You know, Iron Man came first and it set the standard, and then there's been movies that have improved upon that standard. I think Black Panther is one of them.
Agree to disagree.
Hey, I don't. Hold up. What number you on, MG?
3.
Okay, go ahead.
Number 2, I got Civil War. I think that this is it's basically an Avengers movie. Without being called an Avengers movie, but I think that the action in the movie was great. Obviously, you had Black Panther and Spider-Man debut in the movie, which their scenes in the movie were really good. And I think the story that they told obviously was different from the comics. The Civil War in the comics, a lot of that had to do with the movie aspect and kind of changing some things around, and also they didn't have ownership of all their characters at the time. But I think they did a good job of playing off of that the rivalry between Iron Man and Captain America and the ideologies of both of them being different, and kind of looping in what both of them have went through and how they set everything up. And that's the thing how I like about it. They didn't just necessarily jump right into it. They set up why each guy was taking the position that he was taking. And then they, and I really like that aspect of it. Obviously Iron Man, dealing with what he went through with with all the people dying in Sokovia, and then Captain America finding out Shield all this time. The fight scene, especially the final fight scene. I mean, that's as epic as it gets. I mean, that's one of those fight scenes that everybody's gonna remember forever. I don't have as many issues with this movie as some other people do.
I'll say probably my biggest issue was the villain didn't have to be there. The villain that they had in there, he didn't have to be there.
He was a plot device.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was, and the thing is, even though he didn't have to be there, he wasn't bad.
Yeah.
He was there and he was good, even though he didn't need to be there. So I'm not gonna hold that against him.
The thing about Civil War to me is that I feel like it could be the best MCU movie, and I feel like people still think it is that way, and that's fine for having that opinion. But like, I feel like if you focused more on just Captain America and Iron Man, this movie could have been the best by itself. Like, you didn't even need all the other characters in the movie. I almost feel like all the other characters weigh the movie down from the central core reason why you're watching the movie.
Well,
Yeah,
I feel
they
like
had a
Black
hip hop
Panther.
fight scene,
I feel
man.
like Black Panther was needed in the movie because he was the middle ground. He wasn't necessarily picking sides. He was just trying to get the guy who killed his dad, and it just so happened that
He was
Captain
only
America
needed
worked.
because they had the villain.
Yeah, but like I said, he was the middle ground, right? He was the gray area of the movie, which I think you always need, right? Because I mean, you got one side and you got the other side, but where's the gray area? There's always going to be somebody in the gray area.
Yeah, I guess my point is, like, of course you're going to have all the other characters because without all the other characters, you don't have Team A versus Team B. But at the same time, like, I think they should have maybe focused more on those two characters and their actual conflict. I felt like they got away from that with focusing on Spider-Man for a few minutes, then focusing on, you know, all the other characters, like, independently, while we only really cared about Captain America and Iron Man.
Well, I mean, I think after people seen Black Panther, they care. That's a lot. That's where the hype started. So, but I think if you strip away the other characters besides Black Panther, I think the movie doesn't skip a beat. Like I said, I think Black Panther was needed as the middle ground. Somebody to kind of just say, "Look, I don't care what either one of y'all got going on. I'm trying to get to this dude. If you're gonna help me, cool. If you're not, I'm still gonna get to him."
I also think that there probably should have been a death in this movie, just to be honest.
There was close. I mean, War Machine.
Probably should have just died.
Yeah, they probably should have killed him off.
It would have made more of an impact to me watching the movie personally.
Yeah, I mean,
and it would have been one of those moments that you remember, like, oh yeah, like War Machine dies in the movie, and that's why this happens. And I really like the bit with the whole like dad and mom thing, though, like with Winter Soldier, like that part is really good.
Well, I think the movie. I mean, if the movie suffered from anything, I think it was too many moments. And when I say that, I mean not enough people focused on the entirety of the movie, and they only focused on certain moments of the movie, like the last fight scene, or Black Panther showing up on the scene, or Spider-Man catching Cap's shield. But there were too many moments and not enough just necessarily all the way through. But I think overall, to do what they did with as many characters as they did and literally give all these characters a story, and was it needed? Not per se, but was it bad? Not at all. You know,
No.
I still think that to pull that off is very difficult, to bring all these characters together in one movie and do it the way that they did it. So, you know, it could have been better, which is why it's not number one on my list. My number one is the first Avengers movie. I don't see many flaws in the first Avengers movie.
A lot of people trash it now for some reason.
Yeah.
I've been seeing that a lot.
I don't see many flaws in it. The action was great. I think the writing was great, low key, great villain. You had the emotional moments, like when you thought Tony was dying, when he went,
This movie killed someone off too. It wasn't no one like super important, but it was Coulson at least at the time.
Coulson, oh, that was a big moment. Big moment. There's people that kind of got attached to Coulson.
Yeah.
I still remember watching in the theaters while Iron Man was like going up and then dropping back down. Like you thought he might have died there.
Yep. And I think they did a great job of bringing the characters together and giving them reasons. And I think, I mean, I hate to do this comparison, but it's just realistic with the Justice League, right? A lot of these people were just in the Justice League because they got recruited, right? Flash.
Yeah.
He got recruited, you know. But a lot in the Avengers, everybody had their own reasons why they were there, right? I mean, Iron Man, he didn't want to be a part of it at first, you know, until he absolutely had to be. Captain America worked for Shield, you know, he was doing his job. Thor, he really doesn't. He
was chasing Loki.
Yeah, that Thor didn't care about Earth that much. Like he was just chasing Loki. right? And it happened to be low key was kind of pulling the strings. Even Ruffalo as Banner, he had just been brought on to help track low key, right? And he didn't really like officially join the team willingly until the end of the movie after he got dropped out of the sky.
And how great is this movie for replacing the Hulk,
right?
and actually making it like better?
And so, and I think the supporting cast was strong. The action was good. The writing, I don't think there's many flaws with the movie, and it really set the precedent on on team up movies for these superheroes. Now, obviously that can, the movie can drop down the list. Who knows what, how good some of these other movies are going to be. Infinity War's coming out in a couple of months, so it could blow it out the water. Who knows? But, what they did is still standing the test of time for me. And this is the movie that when it comes on TV, I sit and watch it every time. If it's on TV and I see it, I'm gonna watch it. And low key, man, his importance in terms of holding a lot of these Avengers movies together, very understated. Very understated. He's the best villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, bar none.
I wanted to change. Mine.
Ooh.
Captain America. I got that at 12. I'm gonna move that up to 9, and then move Spider-Man back to 10. Guardians Volume 2 to 11, and Age of Ultron to 12. So I'm moving Captain America up. This is really,
okay, cool.
I recently seen the movie, and I felt as though it.
It's on Netflix, right?
No.
No.
Nah, they put it on, they take it off. No Doctor Strange is up there. Civil War is up there. I think that's it.
It might be on Canadian Netflix. I'm not sure.
Could be.
Probably why.
But what would y'all? Because y'all give your thoughts on Black Panther. What would y'all like? Since it's the only movie, what would y'all like in terms of give it 1 through 10?
I'm at a 9.
Black Panther 9. For me, I think it's like an 8.5.
That's where I'm at. Yeah. But I think
I'm seeing it again tonight, so it could go up, it could go down. We'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, and I've only seen it once too, so the same could happen for me. It could go up or go down.
Yeah, because I didn't never watch it a second time. I still may watch it a second time.
Like, there's movies that you've seen like 100 times. Like, I've seen Iron Man 100 times, Avengers 100 times, Captain Winter Soldier. All these movies that I really like, I've seen them a lot. So
yeah, pretty much like those movies that's in my top. Unless there's a movie that comes out that's better, they don't move. Unless the movie that comes out I feel as though it's better, they won't move around just from me watching it another time. Like First Avenger, Captain America: First Avenger was the only one I really felt as though that moved around to watch it another time. But that pretty much does it. Unless y'all have anything else y'all wanted to say. If not, y'all can go ahead and plug your stuff.
all right, for me, nothing really else to say. Looking forward to watching Black Panther a second time just to see what I think about it a second time. And my YouTube channel, The Bottom Line View, check it out. We do NFL content year-round. Also, I've started a second channel for the NHL, Hot Take Hockey. Go subscribe to that as well. On Twitter, at Mitch Milani.
And you can find me on Twitter at Virtuoso Sports. And during the week, you can find me on BlitzSportsNetwork.com.
And if you guys like this video, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you already haven't. Peace.